Gildan Media, a division of Recorded Books, presents Changeology, 5 Steps to Realizing Your Goals and Resolutions, by John C. Norcross, Ph.D., with Kristen Loberg and Jonathan Norcross. Narrated by Chris Sorensen. Introduction. Changeology. What it is and what it can do for you. Let's begin with the end in mind. Think of 1, maybe 2 things that you'd like to change in yourself, something you really want to modify about your behavior. If you're like most people, it doesn't take long to come up with something. Perhaps a laundry list of goals and ambitions rushes through your mind, some harder to achieve than others. Maybe a quick smile breaks out on your face when you proudly recall a goal you have recently realized. Perhaps, too, you feel a brief pang of guilt for not trying to change certain things, or a fleeting sense of dismay because your previous attempts have proven unsuccessful. All of these complicated feelings are part of the universal constellation of emotions toward change. Now, take a deep breath and consider the following. Whether you're hoping to stop smoking or gambling, commit to exercising more hours a week, maybe run a marathon, eliminate fast food and bike to work, or learn a new skill that will earn you a promotion, following the scientific program outlined in this book can dramatically increase your chance of success, without drugs or other types of formal treatment. This proven program shows you exactly how to execute the steps necessary to change on your own. And best of all, you can experience lasting results within 90 days. Sound too good to be true? Much in the way Elizabeth Kubler-Ross distinguished stages of grief, my colleagues and I have identified 5 distinct stages of behavior change. This is hardly an inconsequential finding. These stages, which I've simplified to just 5 straightforward steps, reflect 3 decades of scientific research and millions of dollars in funding. Finally, this well-documented program for successful change is accessible to everyone in this practical book. From chronic addictions to minor habits, the range of behaviors that we can change is vast, but the process of change is the same. In other words, the steps an overweight individual has to take to lose pounds permanently will be the same as those taken by a workaholic seeking to cut back on time spent in the office so he can spend more time with his family. Granted, as each person passes through the steps, he or she will have different goals, but the overall experience will be astonishingly similar. How do I know this for sure? That's what part of this book is going to reveal to you. I'll be detailing what I've learned as a clinical psychologist and university professor helping tens of thousands of people in both research and clinical settings achieve permanent changes. A little history. I was there at the beginning. Not at the creation of the world, mind you, but at the start of defining one of the most effective and celebrated systems ever for changing human behavior. The stages of change. Before I detail exactly how you'll create successful change in your life, let me take a few moments to introduce myself and provide the backstory. It will help you understand just how different Changeology is from any other program that you might have tried in the past. It all started in 1980. Jimmy Carter was in the White House and Dallas was flickering across the nation's TV screens. I had just moved to Rhode Island to earn my doctorate and work with Dr. James O. Prochaska on his first National Institutes of Health grant to study self-change, how people modify their behavior without professional treatment. He and one of his recent graduates, Dr. Carlo C. DiClemente, were studying how 1,000 people stopped smoking on their own. Little did any of us imagine that those early studies would lead to revolutionary advances in understanding how people change their behavior on their own. 5 years later, I had my clinical psychology Ph.D. in hand and an internship at Brown University Medical School under my belt. I accepted a professorship at the University of Scranton, nestled in the rolling foothills of the Pocono Mountains in northeastern Pennsylvania. I continued my research into self-change and psychotherapy, much of it in collaboration with Jim Prochaska. In the 1990s, the research got really interesting as research assistants and I conducted 3 nationally publicized studies that tracked New Year's resolutions. We learned, scientifically speaking, what predicted some resolvers' success and others' failures. Our investigations also looked at change in psychotherapists, the most educated and experienced change agents. How do the experts change themselves? After the new millennium, my comrades and I conducted another series of studies, a dozen in fact, to identify the effectiveness of myriad self-help resources. We separated the chaff from the wheat among thousands of self-help books, autobiographies, films, and websites. We managed to determine what kind of self-help resources work and what constitutes ineffective, unscientific pabulum. Today, there is a staggering number of published studies that have been done on the stages of change, more than 2,000 and counting. Our work has added to this undeniably impressive body of research, which has enjoyed the support of $80 million in federal grant funding. Although the early studies concentrated on addictions such as smoking, drinking, and overeating, over the years they have expanded to include 36 challenges that millions of people face in daily living, including distressed relationships, anxiety, getting ahead at work, troubling finances, depression, and procrastination. The program resulting from this research works across a variety of problems, across countries and cultures, and across the spectrum of healing. It's been used successfully by individuals, couples, families, organizations, and entire health systems worldwide. What's more, it's been proven to work whether you're attempting to change on your own or are armed with a self-help book, assisted by a formal support group, treated by a psychologist, bolstered by medication, or any combination thereof. Our change system has a documented track record of success. It has guided tens of thousands of research participants and psychotherapy patients to lives filled with greater health and happiness. That same research can now guide you through the labyrinth of self-change to your goal. This revolutionary system has been translated into the step-by-step program explained in this book. In other words, you can reap the same benefits of our research that our patients have experienced, just by reading and following the advice offered in Changeology. How Changeology differs from other self-help. At this point, you're probably thinking, he's making awfully strong claims. Or perhaps you're silently protesting, the usual oversold promises of self-help books. Correct on both counts. These are strong claims, and most self-help books do guarantee unrealistic and unproven results. Decades of research validate the methods described in this book. That's the crucial difference between Changeology and the morass of other self-help books. I deplore the insulting anti-scientific fare of most self-help books. In fact, that's been a huge motivator for my career as a clinical psychologist, university professor, and researcher focused on studying behavior change. I have devoted decades of my life to determining what works and what doesn't. After investigating people's attempts to realize their goals for 30 years, I have naturally compiled a list of pet peeves about self-help resources. They tend to fail in 4 ways. They are not based on research, they don't provide specific practical strategies, they focus on only one part of the solution, and they don't tailor advice to the individual reader. Let's consider each of these in turn with an eye toward how Changeology corrects them. A staggering 95% plus of self-help books present no scientific research that they work as self-help, and some bestsellers even contain advice that is contradicted by available research. If FDA approval were required for the usefulness and safety of self-help books, fewer than 2% would be published. Flip through a popular diet book and look for research studies on how much weight loss was achieved for at least 1 year by people on that particular diet. You'll find tons of testimonials and amazing stories, but almost never any hard numbers based on controlled research. Authors' boasts and client anecdotes don't constitute and should not replace scientific research. Therein lies the first crucial difference between other self-help books and Changeology, the science. But a self-help book that simply imparted the science would not prove helpful. It would be about as effective, as Sigmund Freud once observed, as offering a dinner menu to a starving person. Though I do have a tendency to use scientific terminology on occasion, and though I've written this book to appeal to the most science-averse reader, it will be useful for you to learn a few key terms as you come to appreciate the science behind the magic of self-change. But I will go further and translate that science into an abundance of specific, realistic strategies. I will lead you through the most powerful means of behavior change with armloads of examples and illustrations. Another problem with most self-help books is their narrow focus on only one part of the change process. Imagine if someone promised to help you do your taxes but gave you advice on how to organize your receipts and nothing else. The rest of the process would remain frustrating and unfinished. Well, that aptly describes most self-help products. They feature a single part of that process: setting a goal, getting inspired, securing hugs, or learning a few behavioral strategies. But the reader winds up like the proverbial blind man with the elephant, his efforts incomplete and futile. This book, on the other hand, encompasses the entire change process. I will patiently, supportively guide you through all 5 steps of a proven system that you can use to change on your own and customize to your own life. In truth, this isn't the first time that our scientific research and program have been published in a book for a general audience. In 1994, Drs. Jim Prochaska, Carlo Di Clemente, and I published our popular Changing for Good. But a lot has happened since then, both in the scientific arena and in the world at large, which now operates at warp speed and sets individuals up for new challenges and behavioral problems. Hence, Changeology updates our cutting-edge research and expands its applications. I'll be presenting a broader approach to achieving personal improvement and goals, as opposed to our earlier emphasis on eradicating bad habits. I'll also be focusing primarily on the crucial first 90 days of the change process, which omits those people not yet ready to consider change. The power of connection. Changeology personalizes your journey in 2 important ways. First, it guides you step by step and tells you exactly what to do and when to do it. And second, you'll be able to maximize this book's instructions with the help of an interactive website, www.changeologybook.com, at no cost or obligation to you. To receive personalized support online, visit www.changeologybook.com. This will allow you to save your goals, track your progress, print out the worksheets in this book, and complete additional activities. Harness the power of the web as you read this book and beyond. All of the exercises and activities at www.changeologybook.com begin in this book. There you'll have access to 12 free online activities that will assist you in executing many of the specific strategies suggested. The work you do online in conjunction with this book will help you tailor the program to your specific goals. Using this book effectively. As I've already noted, you can change virtually any voluntary behavior using the formula in this book. I will address the most popular behavioral goals and resolutions, such as enhancing relationships, losing weight, acquiring new skills, quitting smoking, starting an exercise regimen, improving your finances, boosting your self-esteem, and reducing your alcohol consumption, but this needn't be an exclusive list. In other words, while the central points in the book address these goals, you are not limited to them. The research-proven methods of Changeology can be applied toward a vast array of personal goals. You may want to help others by delivering meals to the elderly or teaching children. You may be going through a time when accepting change is necessary to weather a major life challenge, such as the loss of a loved one, divorce, unemployment, or prolonged misfortune. As we'll see in this book, following the Changeology program can help you make all kinds of changes. To help you know what you should be doing and when, regardless of your particular goal, the Check Yourself sections will be your guide. I'll also offer some general to-dos at the beginning of each detailed step that will give you a heads-up about what to expect. Obviously, I cannot detail the specifics to every type of possible change a person may want to make. You won't find a daily menu plan for losing 20 pounds, for instance. You're going to create that on your own using the tools I provide. The examples I showcase, however, will give you guidance on what you should be doing every step of the way. You should prepare to follow the program for 90 days. Why? Because behavioral research indicates that it takes 90 days to prepare for change, build a new behavior, become confident in the face of high-risk triggers, and move past the likelihood of relapse. Brain research also suggests that it takes a few months of practicing a new behavior to create permanent change. More than 75% of people maintain a goal for a week, but then they gradually slip back into old behavior. However, research shows that almost all of the people who maintain a new behavior for 3 months make the change permanent. The probability of relapse after that period is modest. Our aim is to get you to your goal and keep you there. That will require a 90-day commitment on your part. I encourage you to read Part 1 in its entirety before jumping into Part 2. Otherwise, you may not grasp the big picture of what works when, and you may inadvertently squander the power of the research. I'm not trying to hold you back. Rather, I'm helping you get psyched up and make realistic plans before you jump into action. Decades of research experience suggest that people who prepare properly and have genuine self-confidence will be far more successful at maintaining their goals after 90 days. It's common to have at least 5 or 6 things that you want to change about yourself. I'll show you how to deal with multiple goals at once. Bear in mind that for different goals you may be in different steps. For example, you might be in the first step for improving your finances, but already in the second for losing weight. Reading the pages of this book in order will improve your chances of success for all of your goals, no matter where you're starting from today. Of course, I expect that you'll return to various sections and the interactive website at different times depending on your particular needs. Please pay attention to the Check Yourself exercises sprinkled throughout the book and take them seriously. They are not mere summaries. They are research-based, data-driven guides that will ensure your success. The Check Yourself appraisals serve as practical checkpoints along your journey through the 5 steps. They also give you the support you need to know exactly what you should be doing and when. A final word about using this book effectively. Work the program enthusiastically. Don't read it as an intellectual exercise or as a dreaded assignment. Bring passionate effort and confidence to the book. Change is not a spectator sport. Complete the Check Yourself exercises honestly. Go online when prompted and print materials that will enhance your success. Enlist the support of another person or two when encouraged to do so. Work the program for 90 days. This is a personal and unique journey. You may feel daunted at first by what lies ahead or fearful that others will judge you. The work you do and the exercises you complete don't need to be read by or shared with anyone else. It's your experience that counts here, so feel free to record the truth and let your success flow from the results. Warning: avoid using this book ineffectively. Near the top of my list of pet peeves are authors who fail, intentionally it seems, to declare the limitations of their self-help resources. In fact, the more outrageous the claim, the greater the public interest. Jesus himself used this approach. Guaranteed results from this miracle method. My secret strategy will work for all problems. Self-help materials that are not forthcoming about their limits are simply not honest. So, let me be upfront about the boundaries of this book's applicability and candid about its limits. Changeology will not help those who are in denial or unaware of their problems. This book assumes that you are aware of your goals and voluntarily pursuing them. It will not work if its methods are being imposed upon you. Remember, Changeology outlines a 90-day program. If you quit after a week, it will probably prove ineffective. The program is applicable to dozens and dozens of behavioral goals, resolutions, and transformations, but not disorders that lead to reality breaks or suicidal intentions. I should reiterate that this book doesn't need to be used in combination with any other treatment program. It's not tied to or dependent on anything but your willingness to change. Changeology can be used with or without professional treatment, including medications, psychotherapy, support groups, and services targeted at specific goals such as weight loss. People ask me all the time if changing long-established behaviors such as smoking, drinking, and overeating requires professional help. The science speaks for itself. Thousands of people have successfully overcome their problematic behaviors on their own using the system outlined in this book. In fact, a whopping 90% of people who stop smoking and 90% of people who gain control of problem drinking do so without formal treatment. That said, I realize that for some it might prove essential to incorporate additional help, but everyone will be different. My recommendation is that you try to work through this self-change program as it's outlined, and then consider professional treatment if necessary. All of the people you'll meet in this book, however, did not recruit help outside our program and my guidance. What's more, they managed to transform their lives in serious ways, extricating themselves from problems that most of us would think demand professional treatment. Now, if you're among those who choose to use the Changeology program while under the care of a professional, please ensure that he or she is aware that you are using it and that you are in agreement on the treatment plan. And as is true of all self-help books, Changeology does not constitute my rendering professional services to you. Simply put, Changeology advocates for the integration of multiple sources of healing. There's no conflict between the program outlined here and the use of other therapies. More than anything, I want you to avoid the pernicious either-or thinking that we should have outgrown by the age of 12. We can take advantage of any combination of these strategies to arrive at a successful change. Use and blend as many of the methods as you feel necessary in your own journey through the steps. I can't think of a more appropriate time for this book. In the last decade alone, we've witnessed soaring rates of chronic disease, which now outpaces infectious disease as a leading killer worldwide. Many chronic diseases, such as obesity and some cancers, have their roots in unhealthy behaviors. We are battling the lethality of lifestyles. At the same time, there's a collective feeling that we're deeply entrenched in depression, stress, and relationship dysfunction. Millions of people are struggling to end addictions and behavioral flaws that only exacerbate their health challenges. The good news is that Changeology has rescued thousands of psychotherapy patients and research participants from a wide variety of behavioral problems that diminish their well-being. I know that it can accelerate your self-change as well, no matter what kind of goals you hope to realize today, tomorrow, and in the future. Contrary to the negativity of conventional wisdom, millions of people have in fact changed their own lives for the better. They have creatively negotiated the confusing blizzard of information and misinformation. Through my research on their successes, I can now guide you more efficiently and effectively toward your behavioral goals, New Year's or anytime resolutions, and life transformations. Here's what I want to scream from the rooftops. There's no need to rely anymore on folk myths and grandma's advice about improving your life. We now possess compelling scientific research that can guide your behavioral metamorphosis. Let science help you. Let us show you the way. That's precisely what I intend to do in this book. It's time for you to become your own behavioral expert, your own changeologist. Now, let's get started. Part 1. The Real Science of Change. How Self-Changers Succeed. The Science. We have a love-hate relationship with the idea of changing our behavior. Change is desired and dreaded, venerated and vilified. No wonder we are so confused about it. Change is cumbersome, clumsy, and even contrary. In a word, difficult. Anyone who has tried to change a behavior, from biting nails or procrastinating to a more ambitious task such as quitting smoking or reversing a lifelong habit of overeating, knows how elusive lasting success can be. And let's not forget that we're human. We're practically programmed to make mistakes and to be led astray. On the one hand, we crave personal growth and hope for continual improvement, to be all we can be, to use the old 1960s slogan and the more current Armed Forces advertisement. Change is an affirmation of life, an exuberant yes. Most of our crowning achievements involve self-change. Maturing into adults, mastering skills, learning professions, enhancing health, pursuing interests, ridding ourselves of destructive behaviors, and so on. Isn't that what we are set on earth to do? Change is exciting, awe-inspiring, and distinctly part of our DNA as Homo sapiens. On the other hand, we fear change. Our distress and dissatisfaction about behavioral blemishes motivate us to seek relief, to be sure. We all want relief and want to live better, more fulfilling lives, but not necessarily to change. Can't I be trimmer without exercising or improving my diet? Can't I have a successful relationship and career without working so hard? Most searches for instant, painless solutions stem from the yearning for immediate relief, but not effortful change. After all, we've been led to believe that change entails an unrealistic regimen of self-sacrifice that frequently meets with failure in the long run. Resistance to change, as any half-conscious psychotherapist will tell you, is a powerful psychological force. What sorts of resistance? Various types. Resistance to recognizing painful feelings and motives connected to a problem. Resistance to surrendering the comfortable rewards of our self-destructive behavior. Resistance to giving up short-term gratification for long-term health. Resistance to doing what needs to be done as opposed to simply knowing what to do. Resistance to changing what we expect and know. Resistance to work and sacrifice. Even switching to a new cereal or a new pair of shoes can prove an ordeal for many of us. As W.H. Auden once declared, we would rather be ruined than changed. Change is at once wished for and avoided, approached and dodged. As you seek change, you also fight against it. This is expected. Embrace it. In fact, this intense ambivalence can fuel your change, as you're about to find out. But for now, as you begin to digest and hopefully heed the advice of this book, recognize both your positive and negative feelings about the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?